Hey everyone, my name is Dave and welcome to the NTDRacing Speed Shop. This here is Lefty, one of our two desert race trucks. Just got done with the Baja 1000, and one of our fixes that we had to do after that race was figure out our jack system. It just wasn't working for us. So I was doing some research, and just so happens at the same time, my friends at Northern Tools asked me if I wanted to try out this Strongway jack. And I was like, I would like to try out your Strongway jack. So here it is. Let me show you what's going to show up in the box, some of the key features that I really like about it, and how I got it mounted to the back of Lefty. Let's go ahead and get to it. We got a merch store. Don't forget to subscribe. Let's go. Here we go on the Strongway 3-ton professional aluminum off-road jack. I have no idea what's inside the box, and I usually don't like unboxing videos, but since I don't know what's in here, maybe you don't too, and so somebody wants to see this. Otherwise, you can fast forward through this section of what's going to be the unboxing. Pretty corny, whatever. Let's see here. In the box, first off, pretty well packed. I got some pretty good delivery guys, so they're not going to destroy things or throw them around when they deliver them. But if you got some guys who throw some stuff around, this thing is pretty well packed with some really durable cardboard. It took me about 5 minutes to just totally love this jack. And I think to tell a story, let me first compare it to my old floor jack and some of the problems I had with this. And first off was that they're just low profile and they don't lift very high, especially when you get to these high profile off-road vehicles. So to lift my truck, I used to have to use blocks of wood underneath this thing, which really just made kind of an unsafe situation. And then another thing which always got to me was the metal wheels that were on my old jack, and they just tore up my epoxy floor. So I've been wanting to get a new jack for a long time, and then the Strongway came along, and so let me just show you some of the features. Okay, just to start with, I really do like these really durable composite wheels. Won't be marring the floor at all as I move this thing around. It makes it really easy to roll it around, especially with the castering rear wheels. These are some super durable casters, and you can see they come with some Zerk fittings to grease those things and maintain this thing while you use it. The other thing I really like are the pads that are used to engage the vehicle. You got this one in case you have a lower vehicle, say a sedan or a smaller 4x4 or something like that. But you can take this one out and then remove this one from its storage. Again, has a place to store this one. All this one's in use. And this is going to be great for those higher profile vehicles. Let's take a quick look at this pad because I think it's a really neat piece. It basically sleeves inside the jack, almost 2 inches, giving it a lot of stability while it is inside the jack. You have this pin here that you can just easily remove, and then you can set the jack in about 3 different positions and then put that pin back in, and that will help you accommodate those much higher profile vehicles. Okay, let's see how well this thing does what it's supposed to do. First off, moving into position is really easy with these castering wheels. I think on dirt or any kind of a surface, this is going to be an easy jack to move around. You engage the jack by twisting the handle, locking down the valve just like you would any other jack. And then watch as I start to pump the handle, how quickly the jack moves itself into its lifting position. But once it's there, you'll notice that it almost kind of shifts gears, and then now you'll see that large movements of the jack handle are generating smaller movements of the jack. And that's that mechanical advantage taking effect, which will allow you to use the full 3 tons or 6,000 pounds of this thing's lifting capacity. And I'm lifting this very heavy truck right now just using one arm, which is pretty impressive. So as you can see, I have the truck lifted well beyond any height that you would need to change a tire. But why on a desert race truck would we need to raise a tire so high? So we just got done racing the Baja 1000. We spent a lot of time stuck in sand and silt and all kinds of things. And the ability to lift the vehicle to a point where now we can stick rocks underneath or any kind of branches or whatever it is to get some kind of traction from the vehicle and get us unstuck is immensely important. And I think the wide base and the flat bottom, given its stability, even in a sandy type situation, is going to be a game changer for us in the coming Baja 1000 and the Mid 400. So one last functional thing I want to show you is how it lowers. If I took my old jack and cracked open the valve quickly, it's going to slam the truck to the ground. But with this one, if I open it quickly, watch how slowly it brings the truck down to the ground. And then once it hits the point where there's no more load on the jack. Watch how quickly then the jack will stow itself in the stow position. I think it's a pretty cool feature. I don't know how they did it, but I like it. Well, I love the functionality of the Strongway, but we're a race team, so we need to be able to get this thing mounted securely to the truck, get it off, change tires quickly, get it back on, and get back on the track. So let's figure out a way that we can mount this thing securely on the Lefty.
Before I get into my own fabrication, check out the link in the description below. It's going to take you to the Northern Tools page for this jack. And if you're comparing these to other jacks on the market, I think you're really going to like the price and then also the features of this jack. It's going to be a really tough one to beat.
Let's take a look at how we're going to mount the Strongway to the back of Lefty. I had this extra 1.5 by 2.5 from the old Bob project, and I fish mouth out that one piece right there that I'll weld in. I need to do a little bit of fabricating to get this thing to engage to this tube right here. And then we're going to get on some Fusion 360 and our Langmuir Systems CrossFire XR to make basically a bucket that goes in here and engages the Strongway. And I think what I'm going to do is have it where it basically slides up over here and then engages these handles right here and holds it in there. And then on the very back, there'll be a stopped where it rests all the weight right there on the back of the jack as it sits in there. Let's get to a little bit of fabricating. Taking another look at how I'm going to mount this thing, here's the tube I just got done welding up back here. And what that will do is that'll be basically the stop up against that skid plate on the bottom, and that's going to share some of the load with another bracket, which is going to basically come kind of up here, clearing these bolts. It's going to engage this handle and then it kind of come down over here, and I'll be cutting that out, designing it and cutting it. Fusion 360 and Langmuir Systems Crossfire XR. You can kind of see where that thing is going to come all the way up over there. So somewhere around the Y of the Strongway is where that plate will start. So I'm gonna get some measurements. I need to find the distance from here to the handle and then also the overall width of the skid plate on the bottom. And then we can go ahead and start dropping those into Fusion 360.
This is the point I do about 20 minutes of computer-aided design. So if you want to see me nerd out on that, I put the full version at the very end of this video. If you also happen to be interested in fabricating using a plasma table like the Langmuir Systems Crossfire XR or Pro, I have a ton of videos where I show you exactly how I do that. And if you're interested in purchasing one of these tables, check out the link below to find out information, and code NTDRacing will save you about $100 at checkout.
Let's take a quick look at this finished jack mount right here. I think it went in there pretty good. I like this little finishing touch right here. It diverts your eyes from my terrible MIG welds that I have down over there. All right, just wanted to give you a really quick real-time demo of how this jack is going to work. We'll get done using it. We'll undo the set screw here, pull the handle out, and that will go right into the frame where we keep our shovels and those kinds of things. And then after that, lifting up the jack and getting into position, just like any kind of lift that's moderately heavy, you do want to make sure that you're using your legs. This is also a good time to give you a plug for our merch store. It's basically just going to slide itself right into position and lock in there. Right now, it's pretty well secured in position. I'll take my strap, however. We use these river straps. I'll put a link for these in the description below, which will take you to our Amazon store. Once that thing is on there, I'm pretty sure it isn't going anywhere. I think this thing is totally ready for the Mint 400. All right, like I say in all my videos, if it doesn't work for some reason, I'll be the first to tell you, and we'll be testing it this March at the Mint 400. And if you happen to be there, hopefully you'll come up and say hello, check out the Strongway jack and some of the other cool features that we have on Lefty. If you think you can use one of these in your own rig or in your own shop, there is a link. They'll take you to Northern Tools in the description below. Thanks for joining us. Please don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next week. Take care of yourself. All right, now for the nerdy cat part of this whole thing. I will probably put the shorter version right in the middle of this video, and I'll put the full version at the end if you want to watch it there. And if that's where you're at now, then here's a full brain dump. So
Fusion 360, I've used this a whole bunch, and here's the basics. So the most plasma tables work on this Y and X axis, so that's what we're going to basically select. And then when we go over to sketch, we need to pick that plane, which now says that, okay, you are drawing on a plane that is this Y and X axis, and the Z is usually your torch height control coming right at you. So what we're doing is I'm going to start with just the base plate for this jack. And so I have, I think I have hotkey G for center box. I do. So I went in there and just under create, I selected rectangle, and then I made center rectangle the hotkey G. So I hit G and it comes up with that automatically, which is pretty helpful. But for this one, what we're going to make it is, it looks like 8.5 by 8 inches. So it's going to be 8.5 wide. That's going to be the length of the jack across the bottom. I'm going to hit the tab key, and then I'm going to say by 8 inches. And then that's the width of the jack, including those screws that kind of sit out on the ends of that thing. So that's basically what we're going to work off. And then now I really just want to draw one side of this and then mirror it on the other. So to do that, you need to have a construction line or some kind of line to mirror things off. So if I hit the hotkey L, which basically selects a line over here. So every time I see a hotkey, I'm selecting something over here, but just kind of the fast way on the keyboard. I'm going to turn on construction lines, because construction lines are things that are not, they don't make tool paths for that. It becomes a dashed line. You can put them anywhere, and you're not going to create a tool path later on. Then I'm going to hit escape, and that's going to stop snapping the next line to it. So there's that. So that's half of this, half one side, half the other. So I'm just going to work on this side. So just to, sometimes you can add as you draw, or you can subtract. In this case, I'm going to kind of subtract. So I'm going to make the biggest piece on the top. What I'm going to do is hit R hotkey, which brings up rectangle again. And I'm going to go over here and turn construction lines off, because I want this to be a piece. And I want it to be the same width, so 8.5, and hit tab and by 5. And that's as tall as the part that I'm going to bend over is ever going to be. So I hit enter there. And then now I'm going to start putting in the features that I can kind of cut this box pieces away from it. So I know that I want it from here to where the back where the circle is, and then up. I want it to be 3.5 inches back, so hit hotkey L. I'm going to turn those construction lines back on. I'm going to come back 3.5 inches, and that's where the center of that thing's going to be. And then the center of that post, again, is about 3.5 inches, but I'm going to set it at 3.4, because basically once that thing is the arm is seated in there, I want it to actually snug up against the back of the plate and basically wedge itself in there, if you will. So at 3.4, I'll hit enter. Then I hit hotkey C, which is going to give me the circle over here, and turn construction lines off. And this, the handle for this thing, I measured at 0.63, so I'm going to say 0.65, just slightly bigger. And that's where, when this thing is resting in there, that is where it's going to be. So with that, I also know that 4 inches after this, I'm just going to give myself a marker here, just saying that this design has got to stay within that zone right there, because right here there's a big bolt. So if I hit hotkey C, I can just kind of make a 1 inch circle, maybe 1.5. So I got to miss that. So this whole design's got to fit inside there. I know that I want this thing to basically go in and drop down into position. So, I figure if it drops down about an inch or so, I might just kind of freehand this for what looks about right to me. So I'll kind of start off this bolt, where that hole there, turn the hotkey or the construction lines back off, and I know I want it to basically slide in at a slight angle. About 1.4, we'll just make it 1.25 inches. It seems about a right distance for that thing to slide down in. And then from there, we're just going to go right to the side of this thing. So basically, we're kind of looking at this thing from the side. So you can imagine the jack is going to, if you will, it's going to slide it, or escape. It's going to come in this way. I'm going to rest it on here. It's going to slide. It's going to drop into that spot right there. So, and what I can do is I can go over here and say, I want this line right here to be tangential to that circle. So that's going to lock that in as a constraint. And that just means that basically is going to be one smooth continuous line all the way around there. And then the next line, I'm going to come over here. I want it to be just slightly wider because I want it to kind of funnel down in there. So you can kind of see I'm intentionally not making it parallel to the other line I have there. And then now I'm basically going to do something like that. Now you can kind of see what I would do is I would bring the handle in, I'd slide it in here, it rests on here, it'd slide back, and then it would drop down into there. And so I'm going to make this line right here tangential to that also. And then what I can do is I can come over here and I can cut that line and then cut that line. Now you can kind of see that opening right there. I can soften these lines up by just putting some, these called fillets, I don't know what they're called. There's something like that. And call enter on that. And then I can do another one over here and really kind of just channel that thing down in there. Say enter. All right, and then from here, what I got to kind of watch out for is if this distance is like 1.25 inches over to here, vertical, I really kind of got to watch out for this bolt also. So I'm just going to turn on construction. I'm going to make this circle just a little bit bigger. And, you know, if it's right around 3 inches, I think that'll be enough. So as long as we stay, this next line I put in here stays outside, outside of that circle, then what will happen is I bring the jack up and slot it into this slot right here. The bolt won't hit this piece right here. So all those kind of things. If I need to, I can go in here and grind some material out, but I'd rather not do that. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out now because I don't need that and don't need that. And this is starting to take some shape, and I'm going to fill up this, make it a nice soft edge. And there we go. Cool. The last part is this feature up here, and I've been kind of tossing around what I want to do with this. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with this piece right here, and I thought about putting some kind of a cam in there where it would go in and lock itself into position, but we just find that things get so dirty and they just jam up out there that nothing really beats just a good old strap. So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to cut this down just a little bit. So I'm going to hit the hotkey L. I'm going to cut down a little shorter. So like, let's say, for example, you're putting the jack in there and it's kind of heavy. So you're fumbling around and you hit this piece right here. I want you to be able to hit this, slide down, hit this, and then slide it in there. So it kind of will help you guide the jack into position. I think it's probably the best way to go. As much as I want to be cool and make some really funky feature on there, I think simple is the way to go for this thing. So I think this is pretty much the shape that I want. Just kind of keep it really simple. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, like I talked about, I'm going to do a mirror feature on this. So I'm going to select the mirror feature. And then now what I'm going to, first I'll pick all the parts, the pieces that I want to mirror on this thing. So I go in here and grab each individual feature. And then once you have all those pieces, now you're going to go ahead and say select. Remember that construction language you were earlier. I'll zoom out so you can kind of see this whole thing happen. Bam, drew that thing in there, I hit OK. And then now it's got that piece right there. And the last thing we have to do is we have to go in here and cut these pieces of lines off because we don't want those. We don't want it to make a tool path for that. And there we go. Here is the full piece. I'm going to hit the hotkey E, and that's going to bring up all my options for extruding this thing. So it's already been selected. I usually take this icon over here, I rotate this so I can kind of see the whole thing happen. And I want this thing to be extruded to an 1/8 inch still, so 0.125. And then I hit enter. And then now this is the piece that we're going to cut out. You can kind of see what we'll be able to do is I'll be able to bend it right here and bend it right there, and both these pieces will be kind of facing up, and we'll weld it to it. So, all right, so now it's time to cut this thing. So before I go to my options to cut, the way I usually cut stuff is almost as if you're reading a book, top left to bottom right. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to hit hotkey M, which is going to bring up my options to move this thing. I'm going to select the body that I want to move. I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees. Just so that's the way it's going to feed through the plate steel that I already have on my table, and say OK. And then right now we're in computer aided design. We go over here, and the cool part about Fusion 360 is bam, now you're in computer aided manufacturing. So we're going to make some G code out of this thing. I'm going to say setup, and I like to set my torch again to top left, and it's going to work itself to the bottom right of my material. And then I'm going to name this thing. All right. We'll go over to cutting. I say this every time. So I'm going to select the Razor Weld 45. I love this thing. And if it ever goes bad, I'm going to buy Hypertherm. I say that every time. But this thing for I guess I've been using this for 4 years now. The Razor Weld 45 has proven itself, and it gets to stay in the shop. 100. And all those numbers, since I don't have really any holes on here, I don't need to work a lead in and a lead out. So I really just a cut feed rate is going to do it. So since I really don't have any holes, I'm not going to worry too much about the lead in and lead out rate. If I was going to cut a bunch of holes, I might make this number 80. But since I don't, I'm going to select this part that I want to cut, and then you know what? Again, I'm not doing holes. I'm going to select this point down here to start this cut. And the reason I do that is because I want the tool to start cutting here. And then by the time it gets over to here, it's still connected to a lot of the material. If I said start like cutting right here, then it's going to cut. And by the time it gets over here, it's really not hanging on to anything except for this little tiny piece of metal. It's going to cut off over here, and the piece will shift. And then you'll get a bad cut. So if you kind of start at the basically anywhere from like the 6 o'clock to the 9 o'clock position for your cut, and you're probably going to be pretty safe. So, okay, so hit OK. If we want to, we can go ahead and put the simulation on. It's going to show you exactly what's going to cut. And this is pretty useful, especially if you have holes that are really small or something like that. You might do the simulation and realize, oh my gosh, it didn't give me a tool path. And the reason is it probably is because you made it too big of a lead in or a lead out or something like that. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead, go to post the G code. I'm going to change my file here. All right, and then last thing I always check here is the pierce delay. If I have like anything less than a 1/4 inch, I use a 0.2, and 1/4 inch or greater, I use a 0.3 for a pierce delay, and that tends to work pretty good. So we'll post that thing. Now let's go take it over to the CrossFire XR and cut this part out.